Hello to you, Emmanuel Shahaf.
Hello, hello.
Identity, the quest for a better future for Israel, the book, the lectures. Though the situation nowadays in Israel is very challenging, what would you predict is going to be happening in the coming month, or the coming year?
Probably more of the same. We're in a
Chaos.
Chaos, yes. The chaos is going to continue. The government is continuing to fuel the chaos with all kinds of legislative measures, all kinds of attempts which make the situation worse, both the economic situation and the social situation. And this is being counteracted by the demonstrators, by the organized demonstrators. And the opposition, in the meantime, is not capable of getting its act together, so it doesn't have a coherent response. It's fighting a struggle against the legislation, the legal coup legislation, but not more than that.
What would you expect them to do?
Well, first of all, they have to have an agenda beyond fighting a withdrawal fight, which is what they're doing right now. They don't have an agenda. They don't have any policy positions to look forward what to do, because it's obviously not only the democracy which is at stake, it's also the whole concept of the State of Israel, in which borders and how to resolve the conflict, and nobody's talking about that.
What would you recommend to deal with that is not being dealt with right now?
Well, first of all, the conflict has to be drawn into the discussion, because right now Israel and also the demonstrators are mainly concerned with resolving our democracy deficit within Israel by, for example, writing a constitution. But and a lot of elements are talking about writing a constitution, which has long been overdue. But the fact that it's overdue doesn't mean that we are in a position now to write the constitution, because we simply haven't decided who is part of the people. Okay, a minor little detail. Every constitution starts with "we the people." Who are the people within the constitution? Is it only the Jews? Is it only the Israelis?
Maybe it's a coalition that are calling us right now.
All these Israeli citizens, or is it? Does it include the Palestinians, which are under our sovereignty?
You think that there is a way that the Palestinian issue is going to be part of the discussion? Because most of the people in Israel, for more than 50 years, they just don't want to be part of it.
Somebody has to pick up the gauntlet. You can't, there are serious problems if we don't include the Palestinians in the discussion. It has to be brought into the into the discussion, into the public discussion, if the public likes it or not. So we need courageous politicians who say, okay, we understand it's much easier to ignore it, but we have ignored it for 56 years. Okay, and the chickens are coming to roost, and they came to roost inside Israel with our democracy deficit, which is basically the result of a long, in many ways, it's a result of a lengthy occupation, which finally conquered Israel. Okay, and now to try to deal with this democracy deficit by ignoring the very thing which caused it in the first place. That's that's folly. It's just not the right thing to do.
So the first step, you think, would be, now that the occupation is out of the table, to put it within the conversation?
Yes, it has to be part of the conversation. It has to be tagged on. It has to be brought in. It has to be. We have to be made aware. The public has to be made aware of the fact that any discussion of the future of democracy in Israel has to include the West Bank and
the Arab people in the West Bank, the Palestinians.
That's the main object, to include the people who live there.
Because otherwise it would be an official apartheid.
Yeah, and if you look at the legislation the government is leading right now, it's clear that the government is leading towards an apartheid state. every single piece of legislation they're legislating is geared to make it possible to differentiate between different segments of the population to this or that extent in this or that area.
You know, it seems to be very sad that most of the Jewish people, most of the Israelis, for so many years are basically ignoring that. The coalition, opposition.
It's very sad, and it's a sign that we didn't have very good politicians, because they kept pushing the very important things. They kept putting them away and not deal with them, and now, like I said, the chicken are coming to roost. So we have to deal with it, and if we don't deal with it, worse things will happen.
What do you think is happening with the way that the army is dealing with these kind of challenges that are happening in the occupied territories?
Well, the army is also basically ignoring it, because it's letting the government getting away with changing the situation on the ground in the West Bank by permitting settlers to take over areas and basically and annex more and more territories for purposes of settlement and whatever.
It was an official ministerial decision by Smotrich, maybe with the Minister of Defense. So what would you recommend the Chief of Staff?
The Chief of Staff, the only thing he has to say is it's over my dead body, or over my ranks, whatever he chooses to threaten with. But it's clear that the government can't do something that the army is opposed to. The army is a very strong player in this, both the official army and the non-official army, those parts of the army who are supporting the demonstrations. So.
What do you think about the movement of the main means of communications, the new ones, the old ones, that are enabling this kind of ignorance of the occupation issue and much more?
There's a clear effort by the government to put more and more to conquer more and more media outlets and make them blast out government propaganda. And it's clear that it happens. Army radio is being conquered. There's another channel which is like Fox News, which is broadcasting government propaganda and a lot of fake news all the time. And this is an ongoing effort which we not only have to be aware of it, but we have to counteract it as much as we can.
Doing what, for instance, would you recommend?
By spreading correct news and spreading the fact that the government is trying to conquer the communications. That's part of the whole system. That's part of the government's efforts to change the system of government in Israel.
Jewish people in the United States that are listening to you, Emmanuel Shahaf, what would you tell them to do? What would you recommend them?
To support the Israeli efforts to counteract the government, to actually, as sad as it sounds, but to support the efforts to work against the government of Israel, because the government of Israel is working against the Jewish people now these days.
That's amazing.
Yes. But that's the fact.
Do you think that more people that are in Europe, we're talking about Jewish people in the United States, or people in Europe, Poland and other countries, might hear what is happening, another miracle that is happening in Israel, and they can adopt some measures that have been taken in Israel?
I think the Israeli demonstrations and the efforts to work against the government are an inspiration and can be an inspiration to other countries where there's problems with democracy, like in Hungary, like in Poland, and I think they have been adopted already in Poland, being adopted in Poland. The fact that certain elites within a country can have enough power to put pressure on the government to make changes. To make changes, I think it's something which not many people were aware of, and I think we also in Israel became aware of it recently through the demonstrations. How Air Force units and special operation units took command of the demonstrations and indicated to the government that they're not going to play along if the government doesn't change its ways, and the government had to follow suit. So we'll see how far we can take this.
Any good news towards the end of this conversation?
Yes, two good news.
Two good news.
For a change. I think this is the first time, I think it's 7 years, that we've been contacted by a member of parliament, a member of the Knesset, who wants to hear more about the federation, which is indicative.
What kind of meeting it was?
It was a very good meeting with member of parliament, member of Knesset, Boaz Toporowski from Yesh Atid, Lapid's party. A very positive meeting, and we're going to continue the contact and develop it. And the second good news is, of course, the victory of the Israeli under-20 soccer team over Brazil in the Mondial for young players, which was a joint Israeli-Arab-Palestinian effort to put 3 goals in and go into the semi-finals.
Under the Israeli flag.
Under the Israeli flag, yes.
People that want to be part of the community, of identity, of the federation, how would you recommend them to be in touch?
Through Facebook, to Emmanuel Shahaf, or to the Federation Movement, or Identity, the Quest for Israel's Future.
Maybe we'll win the cup at the right time.
This would be a good development, yes.
Emmanuel Shahaf, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.